Hello and welcome or welcome back. My name is Reb and we are going to be looking at my daily journal. So last month I finished up my daily journal for January through May. For this journal I used pretty much a fine liner and colored pencil throughout the entire book. There were some exceptions to that. I'm pretty sure I used just pencil on some of them kind of early on, but that's kind of where I ended up kind of sticking for most of the book. So with this new journal, I did decide to go with the same size. I wanted to mix it up a little bit and try out some different mediums. Before we open up, I'll just tell you about my stickers. This one is by Debbie Draws Funny. Then we've got one by projectparlor and one by Olinda's Artistic Oddities. I will link all of their channels below. Alright, so opening up, for this one, I decided to switch it up and use a brush marker or brush pen. This is a Micron brush pen. So far the tip has held up pretty well, considering how much I've used it. And I also decided to use watercolor. And the watercolor that I'm using is either this little small like watercolor set. Let me see if I can grab it. So this little guy here, or the lovely Olinda at Olinda's Artistic Oddities gifted me these Derwent Inktense pencils, which I have really been loving. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. I'm pretty comfortable with pencil, so using watercolor pencil is like a lot easier to control for me. But yeah, I think that I've been really enjoying using those. So for this page, just to like kind of show you, the watercolor pencil does retain some of its like marking even when you wet it, which I kind of actually really like. And the other kind of added bonus to me is that you can draw over it with the pencil or with something else. So pretty neat. All right, so let's take a look inside. So the first day I used a little bit of a combination of the fine liner and the brush pen. I think I wasn't quite ready to let go of the fine liner just yet. On this day, this was the end of the 100-day project, which if you haven't seen that video, I drew a spider that lived in our doorway for a long time. So if it gives you the heebie-jeebies, sorry, but I really liked that drawing, so definitely go check that video out, even if it's just for the rest of the drawings in the 100-day project. The next day we went to the beach. I really like this little sections, I don't know what you would call them, and then had some just like drawings kind of off to the side. I also really love this little seaweed drawing. I don't know why, but it's pretty cool. This is just watercolor out of the little pan. Next day was me kind of rearranging some furniture in my studio. I'm really trying to kind of rework my studio, and it has been a slog, but we'll get there eventually. I also received my art swap from Boru, which was amazing. I'll put a picture here so you can see it, but it is very cool. Next day, my little guy was sick. He had a fever. I made his favorite food, but he really honestly didn't even want to eat, which broke my heart. But next day he was starting to feel better, so that was good. Day after that was the day that I actually got to open the art swap. I was kind of waiting to make sure that he had gotten his, but I did open it and there was so much fun stuff inside. I also went out to the garden to harvest things, and there's just so much stuff in that garden right now. Next day was a frustrating day. I'm not very technologically savvy, if you guys haven't figured that out. So yeah, I just wanted to light everything that I own on fire, basically. The next day, the weather was like really nice, so I did some plein air painting out in my garden, and that was like super fun. It's funny to kind of like condense a whole like painting session into, you know, a 30-second clip for YouTube, because you don't get everything that happened while you were out there. And I can honestly say that the actual experience was 10 times more magical than the clip, because I had a butterfly floating around my head. There was a hummingbird that was just kind of hovering over my shoulder. The like breeze was blowing everything around, and it was lovely and beautiful. And it was just like such a nice morning. Later on, I went to visit the museum, and I brought along a friend so that they could kind of see some stuff there at the museum via video conference. It's always kind of fun to see the museum with like an art person, because I feel like you can talk about all the art more like in detail and geek out over, you know, the techniques and things like that. When you have tried to do those techniques yourself and you see them done by masters, it's a different experience. More plein air painting the next day. Another harvest of veggies. I ended up taking some of that stuff to friends and family because there was too much. And then we forewent bath time before playing in the pool. The next day was kind of prep for Game of Shrooms. Game of Shrooms is like a yearly event, basically, where you make mushroom-themed art and then you hide it for other people to find. It's a whole coordinated thing where they have like an online map. You can see who's hiding things in your area. It's linked to your Instagram or other socials. And yeah, it's a really fun event. I was looking forward to it. I am obviously really into mushrooms, so in turn really into Game of Shrooms. So much so that I ended up making myself some cool pants. That was really, honestly, really fun, and I've worn them so many times, even though, you know, Game of Shrooms is technically over. I ended up printing some patches for the like art giveaway, which I thought was pretty fun. And then the next day I did some more printing. I went to a little estate sale and found this cute teapot and some records. I made myself a little note here that I need to erase. Day after that was art hang party. The weather that day, I remember, was terrible, and we had so many call-ins at work. So I couldn't really do too many of the art hang party drawings. But I did manage to draw a couple, and it was really fun. I really liked the flamingo. And then I just went home and snuggled my little guy. The next day was Friday. I ended up sneaking away to watch a little bit of this documentary. It wasn't about Betty Saar, but it had a little bit about her. And she was talking about how, you know, when she became a mother, she couldn't participate in activism the way that she had before, and how she had to kind of shift. And I've been thinking about that like a lot lately. So I did a little bit of carving, and I think that you'll be seeing a little bit more of that later. The next day was Game of Shrooms. Unfortunately, Texas weather really rained on my parade. It was like torrential downpour, so much that I couldn't even leave the house, or at least I didn't feel like I could leave the house safely, so I couldn't go hide my stuff until much later. But I did end up making, a day of it. We went to the museum. I did end up hiding like some stuff there, and then, visiting the actual museum. And then later on, and I did this as like a 2-page spread, we went to a pool party at my cousin's house, which was really fun. So this is me in my bathing suit, and my son was cracking me up. He was obsessed with that pool. Like, he did not want to get out. He just swam his little heart out. And it was so funny because on the way home, of course, he fell asleep almost immediately. And I looked back because I heard a little noise, and I looked, and he was literally doggy paddling in his sleep, and it was so freaking funny. Also, they had mamey shakes, and I haven't had one of those in probably, I don't know, almost a decade. And it was everything. It was everything. Next day was Father's Day. I ended up taking the little guy out with me so that Daddy could have a day off and just chill. So we went to go just do some like random stuff, and to go see my dad, his grandfather. And then we came back and just all hung out in bed and watched movies. The next day, I went to get some more veggies from the garden, and everything was just like exploding. So I ended up making a recipe by my lovely friend Teresa at Oficina Caracolino. I will link her channel, and if I can, the video that goes with that recipe, because that sauce was so good. I ended up making zucchini noodles with the pasta, which really added a nice like contrast of texture. And then I had some milk that we had just gotten a new gallon, and it wasn't expired or anything, but don't have space for 2 gallons of milk in the fridge. So I ended up making fresh ricotta. And I mean, when I say my son was shoveling that into his mouth by the fistful, I am not lying. He ate 2.5 bowls of pasta. The next day was super special. I got to hang out with my fellow YouTuber and friend Linda. She came down for a visit, and we decided to have a day at the beach. Her and her family came down, and we just literally hung out on the beach. Me and Olinda got to sit on our little picnic blanket and do some watercoloring, and we saw this cool bird that I've never seen before, which is crazy because I go to the beach pretty often. I've never seen one of these before. And my son basically just shoveled the entire beach, but we had a really great day. We even took our dog, which was a little bit of a nightmare because she loves the beach. She loves the beach. But the problem is, anything that's out in the water, she has to go and get it. That could be a shark, a stick, a giant piece of seaweed, a pelican, anything. So she just was just trying to swim out into the ocean basically at all times. But I did get this really cute picture of her bringing what I thought was going to be a little stick, but it ended up being a really big stick. So, but she was so proud of herself. It was really cute. The next day we hung out again with Olinda. She was there for 2 days. So we went over to the museum so that her daughter and mom could see the Murakami exhibition. Then we went to this place called Texas Art Asylum, which was super fun. It's like a thrift store for art supplies, basically. And it was funny because I told my son that he could pick out a toy, and he brought over, I kid you not, a giant glass jar of doll parts, like arms and legs and heads and torsos. And I was like, this is my son. This is my son. So it was pretty funny. He played a lot in that store and basically wore himself out. And we went to go and get coffee, and he just fell asleep right there on the bench that we were sitting on. So the next day it was back to work, but later on that day we had art hang party. I got to use some of the art supplies that I had picked up from Texas Art Asylum, which were these like knockoff Neocolors, I guess, from this company called Stamping Up, which I'd never heard of. They're pretty good. They're like not quite as like saturated as Neocolors. They're quite a bit softer, I would say. But the colors that, were in the sets were really pretty, and I'd been wanting to like have some, supplementary supplies at my job for whenever the inspiration strikes and I've got like a slow moment. So I left those at my job so that I'd have something to play with there without having to like lug things back and forth. Later on, I went to get veggies from the garden, but the mosquitoes were out and just terrible. So I had to don my like stupid hat to just get the veggies and not get bit all over my face. Next day was just like an annoying day at work. I had a lot of work to do. I was so tired. But I just got to put in like a request for vacation, which I'm so looking forward to, and we'll be talking more about that later. Later on, I gave my son a bath, and he was cracking me up because he was sticking all the letters and telling me words that started with those letters. It was pretty cute. And then I did a little bit more of the art hang party, just for fun, using the Graphitin. The next day, I don't know what happened, but I did not put anything in here. And I don't remember what happened for the rest of that day. I know that I did like a watercolor study, but I think it was just work, and that was it pretty much. The next day we went to see my friend. She's got a son that is about the same age as Orion, so they got to hang out, and it was pretty fun. And then Monday, which is usually a work from home day, I ended up going to the Houston Food Bank and volunteering with my coworkers, which was really fun and a really great experience. It's incredible the work that the Houston Food Bank does, like all the food that they process and distribute. Like, it was a really awesome experience. That being said, I have never seen so many pineapple tidbits as I saw that day. Like, pallets and pallets of pineapple tidbits. It was crazy. The next day, or not the next day, later that day, I got home and went to go pick some veggies, which I hadn't done in a couple of days, and everything was super overgrown. We had, the most giant zucchini. It was probably, I don't know, 1.5 feet long. Like, it was crazy. I thought I would be able to make some zucchini noodles out of it, but it was too overgrown even for that, so my chickens enjoyed that one. Day after that was a day off. I went to take my son to the dentist, which was not fun. I don't know how to make the dentist not scary for a kid, but it is what it is. But we ended up, after that, going to the pool, and he had a great time. He is basically a fish. Next day, just did a lot of reorganizing and cleaning. I packed up a bunch of bags to donate of clothes and shoes, just stuff that my son had outgrown, stuff that I don't wear anymore. And we went to Goodwill, and I suddenly understand why people put their kids on leashes, because the speed in which this boy will run away from me is insane. So, seriously, considering leashes, somebody talked me out of it. Next day was a work day. If anybody is wondering, my bangs are still a menace. They cooperate maybe 1 out of 10 days. This was not one of those days. I got to see this exhibition, a little bit of it, and then later on that day was art hang party. Oh, it was still lifes, which everybody kind of submitted their own still life. I totally forgot to submit mine, but there were some really great ones in there. And yeah, that was pretty fun. Next day was a Friday, and the traffic was so terrible. It took me like almost 2 hours to get to work. I really literally wanted to like scream in my car. Pretty much standard day of work, nothing really to share there. But when I got home, we picked this really pretty eggplant that I had growing in the garden, and got some more veggies. I drew my outfit that day because I liked it. The day after that was my friend's kid's birthday party. My son, I guess I should start by saying it was at a little like art studio, and the art studio had a backyard that had this really beautiful garden full of like different trees and vegetable plants and flowers and stuff. And my son basically had a jungle adventure there with his little friend, and it was really freaking cute. So really good day. We made a little craft, which of course I didn't take any pictures of or anything, but it is going to get put in a kiln and baked. So we'll see how it turns out, because I did let my son basically do the whole thing on his own. So more on that later. The next day, I don't know if it was because of the party the day before or what, but I was feeling just completely lazy. I hung out in my underwear all morning and didn't do basically anything. And then went to work. I did end up going for some coffee because I was in desperate need of it. And then later on when we got home, I was feeling much better. We went out and kind of just played. My son has this little toy chainsaw that he loves to chainsaw trees with. And we saw these cool ducks at our pond. They're called whistler ducks, but they were just chilling. It was pretty cool. And then my father-in-law and my boyfriend were playing pickleball. It was just like a really nice evening. And then the very last day was basically me still rearranging my studio, trying to make it work. It's like playing Tetris, and it's driving me crazy. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, when you have like too much stuff and you're trying to like put it somewhere, and it's just like feels like it's exploding no matter how you do it. That's where I'm at right now. But we did end up cooking the eggplant. We roasted it along with some other veggies and had it with feta and couscous, and it was really delicious. And I'm glad I made like a giant portion of it because I will be eating that for the next couple days. So yeah, that is the month of June. I really liked this style with the brush pen. That said, I think I am going to try something else for this coming month. I think I want to try just using like watercolor pencil and giving it a little bit of a lighter look because sometimes it's very kind of heavy. So we'll see. We'll see what I end up deciding, but I'll probably kind of change it up month to month just till I find something that I feel like I'm really happy with. So anyways, I hope that you have enjoyed this little tour, and I will catch you guys on the next video.